Guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. Hope you guys are staying safe. Hope you guys all in the UK and everywhere around the world are safe. If you're locked down or if you're able to go out and not you're not in a lockdown. I hope you're all safe. Um, but I want to talk about something that Eddie Hearn said. Something that Eddie Hearn um, Eddie Hearn's a great promoter. I'll first say Eddie Hearn's a brilliant, brilliant promoter. I think he's the best. I think, people before, like a couple years ago, were saying he's the best promoter in the UK. Slowly, now people are saying that he's the best promoter in the world. With the stable of fighters he's got across UK and US, I think he's probably the biggest promoter in the world right now. He's young, he's vibrant, he's great selling fights. I think he's really, really good. I think Eddie Hearn's gonna. I think when Eddie Hearn finishes his career, I think he's gonna be up there with Bob Arum, Don King as one of the greatest promoters of all time. He is brilliant. He is brilliant at what he does. And for me, a great promoter is somebody that overhypes something and makes you believe it. He makes you believe what he's saying is right. Like what he's saying is 100% spot on. Eddie Hearn's great at convincing people. He's a salesman. He's a brilliant at selling things. Brilliant. So I do believe that he's going to go down as one of the greatest promoters once his career is all said and done, because he's really good. He's really good at what he does. I don't think he gets enough credit. I think people know that he's good, and that's why there's a lot of other promoters and other guys in top positions that always trying to bring him down, trying to have a go at Eddie Hearn, because they know he's top dog and they know he's good. Right? When you have a lot of people hating on you, a lot of people trying to bring you down, that's because you're doing a great job and you're good. And that's what Eddie Hearn is. He's brilliant. He's very, very good promoter. But in terms of, sometimes I don't always agree with what he says. And I think this is another time where he said something which I don't agree with at all. He said that Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury will be the biggest fight of all time. He has said on occasions that it'll be one of the biggest fights, one of the biggest fights. But I've seen him in an interview saying where he thinks it will be the biggest fight of all time. And I have to disagree with that. Bob Arum was a little bit more. He said that, oh well, it'll be the biggest fight since Ali Frazier. I don't see how Tyson Fury v Anthony Joshua is going to outdo an Ali Foreman or Ali Frazier. I don't think in 50 years' time, when both their careers are done, and even when Joshua and Tyson Fury are no longer alive, past their time, what are people going to look back in history and talk more about? Tyson Fury or Anthony Joshua, or Ali Foreman or Ali Frazier? I think there's only one answer. I think the way we talk about Ali Frazier and Ali Foreman even today, and that was 50 years ago, some of those fights, right? Ali Liston, Muhammad Ali was an icon. Like he's gonna go down as the greatest sportsman of all time. Unless you think that Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua are gonna be in the same realm, which they're not gonna be. Neither of those guys are going to be, even no matter what they do, they ain't going to be considered as great as Muhammad Ali as a boxer, or going to go down as one of the greatest sportsmen of all time. Neither of them are, even though I think Tyson Fury is unbelievable. I think Age is a good fighter as well, but, I think Tyson Fury is unbelievable. I do. I think he's a great, great fighter, and I think he would have given a lot of the heavyweights of the past just due to his size and his skill set problems. However, I don't think Tyson Fury or Anthony Joshua is as big as Ali Foreman. It's not even the biggest fight of the last decade, really. Because Mayweather, Pacquiao were way bigger names and bigger stars globally than Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. And their fight financially is not going to be surpassed by Fury or Joshua. Let's be honest. Financially, if we look at it, Mayweather and Pacquiao were two of the biggest names of the last 10, 15, 20, 30 years. And let's be honest, neither Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, we don't consider either of them in the same realm. Like I said, I think Tyson Fury's for me, he's going to be a legend. I do think he's that great. I think Anthony Joshua is a great fighter as well, but I personally think Tyson Fury's better. That's just my personal opinion. Obviously, when they fight, a lot could change. I'm just giving my opinion right now on how I view them. But in terms of it being the biggest fight of all time, I disagree with Eddie Hearn. I don't even think it's the biggest fight in the last 10 years. How can you be the biggest fight in the last 10 years when we know Mayweather and Pacquiao, two of the greatest fighters, probably in my top five. Both Mayweather and Pacquiao were in my top five greatest fighters of all time. And that's my personal opinion. I'm not saying I'm right. That's my personal opinion. Fury and Joshua don't come close to being even in the top 50 in most people's list, right? So, and let's not cut around the bush. Both Pacquiao and Mayweather are also bigger stars on a global scale than Fury and Joshua. They're way bigger stars, right? Globally recognized stars, right? Which Joshua and Tyson Fury aren't. You know, this fight, it'll be the biggest fight ever in UK history for the UK, yes. But to call it the biggest fight of all time, including all fights, nah. It's not even, like I said, it's not even the biggest fight in the last decade. It's not the biggest fight. Mayweather-Pacquiao surpasses Fury-Joshua tenfold. I can even remember the hype for that fight, Mayweather-Pacquiao. I'm talking, there was girls that weren't even into boxing staying up to watch that. Literally, I'm talking the whole, even UK, the UK, that did millions of pay-per-view buys. Imagine that. In the UK, that did over 1 million pay-per-view buys. 4 in the morning, Mayweather-Pacquiao. Think about that, guys. Think about that. A fight at 4 in the morning, not even two British fighters, not even one British fighter involved, and it did over 1 million pay-per-view buys. Think about how big that fight was. Not even having one British fighter fighting in it, and it did over 1 million pay-per-view buys. That shows the extent of that fight. That shows that how big that fight was, not just in America, but globally. Do you think Anthony Joshua with Tyson Fury is going to do over 1 million pay-per-view buys in the US? I doubt it. I doubt it, because the American public, in my opinion, the fact that there's no American, I'm not sure they're going to get that behind it, if I'm honest with you. And I think Tyson Fury is a big name over there in the US, but I don't think Anthony Joshua or Tyson Fury are household names there. I don't think either of them are household names there. I don't see that doing big buys. Like, when I say big buys, I don't know whether that's going to cross over 1 million pay-per-view buys there. But again, I don't know I don't know the projections, and obviously the promoters will know better. But for me, if I was to be honest with you, I don't think this fight is as big or anywhere near. By the way, I don't think it's anywhere near as big as Mayweather-Pacquiao. I don't think it's close. I don't think it's close. I think it's the biggest fight in boxing right now, Joshua Fury. But in terms of it being the biggest fight of all time, I don't think it comes close. I think there's many fights that have been bigger than that. Many fights that I think that have crossed that. Even financially, I think there's probably been fights that have made more money, possibly. And what I mean by financially, I mean if you go back in them times and then convert what that money would with obviously inflation and that, what that money would be right now. I reckon there'll be a lot of fights that you'll come across that would have grossed, if those fights were happening today, more than what Anthony Joshua and Fury. Let's be honest, right? Mike Tyson fought Roy Jones, and this is how big a star Mike Tyson is. He fought Roy Jones. He did 1.6 million pay-per-view buys. That shows how big a star Mike Tyson was. That at the age of 50, he came back and fought, and he did over 1.6 million pay-per-view buys. Right? And I guarantee you the pay-per-view buys here in the UK were big as well. Were decent. But in America, it did 1.6 million pay-per-view buys at what? 70 quid? It's ridiculous. This is what I'm trying to say, that I do think that in my opinion, in my personal opinion, I think we look at social media today and look that these guys back in the day didn't have any of that. They didn't have social media to promote. Imagine how big Muhammad Ali would have been in today's time with social media. Imagine how big Mike Tyson would have been with like social media. He's big. He's got more followers than Joshua now, and he's not even active. Before social media came in, Mike Tyson had finished. Imagine if he was fighting today, how big Mike Tyson would have been. He would have been immense. The aura of Mike Tyson, The aura of Mike Tyson, like, he was on another level. Like I said, the man did over 1.6 million pay-per-view buys at the age of 50. The intrigue and the star that Mike Tyson was the second biggest star, the second biggest icon after Muhammad Ali. He was that big. Listen, don't get me wrong. Both Joshua and Fury are big names and the stars. And this is the biggest UK fight ever, without question. But in terms of saying that two Brits fighting is going to be the biggest fight of all time, nah, not for me. Even to say it's one of the biggest fights of all time, I don't know whether I agree with that. I don't know whether I agree with it's being and I certainly don't agree it's the biggest fight of all time. I definitely disagree with that. But in terms of it being one of the biggest fights of all time, even that, you'd have to say that, I don't know. Maybe financially, yes, it's probably one of the biggest, not the biggest, one of the biggest. But let's not forget, it's not even the biggest fight in the last decade. If we were to go back 10 years, Mayweather-Pacquiao is, in my opinion, 5 times bigger than Joshua Fury. Way bigger. Way big. I'm just telling you, I can remember the intrigue for that fight. I can remember the hype around that fight. I can remember how much the hype was, not just in America. I can't even imagine what it was like in America. I'm talking here in the UK, people were like, oh, Mayweather's fighting Pacquiao, Mayweather. Like, we as a family, all my family were watching that. Like, even my mum got up and watched that fight. That's how big it was. Mum never gets up for any fight. The intrigue and the size of that fight was so enormous. My granddad, who's over 90, right? He got up and watched that fight because the hype around that fight was so big. He literally got up at 4 in the morning to watch that fight. And he was disappointed with that fight because it left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth. And he was like, I didn't get to see a fight because we didn't see a fight. It was a terrible fight. But in terms of the size and the hype and the no way Fury Joshua comes close to that. No way. Because both those fighters, for me, are globally on another level to Joshua and Fury. They are. So, for me, financially, it's not going to overtake Pacquiao Mayweather. And I think in order for a fight to be humongous, I think it has to be big in America. I think Fury Joshua is big, but it's not super big. I don't think the Americans are going to take to two Brits fighting each other. I think it'll do buys, don't get it wrong. But I don't think it's going to do crazy buys. Like, I don't think it's going to be that big in America like some people think. I don't think it's going to be that big at all, if I'm honest. I'll be surprised if it does anywhere near or does over 1 million pay-per-view buys. But especially the fact that there's two Brits. Are the Americans don't get behind their own fighters, you know, in this day and era. Who's a big star in America? Who's the biggest American star? No one. You know what? Errol Spence, Wilder, like, these aren't household names in their own country. You know, so for me personally, I don't think the Americans are going to take. And I think for a fight to be humongous financially and size-wise, I think it has to be big over in America. And I just don't think Fury Joshua is gonna bang the door down in America personally. So that's why I think it won't be the biggest fight. I think even saying it's one of the biggest fights of all time, I think that's probably pushing it. But you can say that statement's a lot more accurate than saying it's the biggest fight of all time. I think Bob Arum was a bit more realistic by saying that, you know, it's the biggest fight since Ali Frazier. I don't agree with that, to be honest. I think there's been many fights that were bigger than this. I think Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis was possibly bigger, even though they were coming towards the end. I think that was huge. I think Mayweather Pacquiao was way bigger. It's not even close for me. So personally, I don't agree with Eddie Hearn. What do you guys think, though? Do you think this is the biggest fight of all time? Do you think it's the biggest fight in the last 10 years? Do you think this is bigger than Ali Frazier? Do you think this is bigger than Ali Foreman? Do you think this is bigger than Mayweather Pacquiao? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. Do you think this is bigger than Mayweather Canelo? I don't think it is, but leave your thoughts in the comment section below, guys. Let me know what you think. I'd love to know your opinions about it. And guys, remember to please like, share, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.